Hello everybody, welcome to our GCP-Mindset channel. Today's topic is the second part of efficiently prepared for remote audits.
So what are these audit observations? Audit observations are based on audit notes, objective evidence, as well as of collected evidence. And these observations include non-compliance, so asking the question, what is the issue? Also investigation, understanding why it's an issue, and taking the risk assessment into consideration to really clarify, is it an isolated or a systematic issue? After the audit conduct, the next step is the audit report. And this is what I'd like to explain now a little bit, what's the content of it, and it should be in a way that it's clarified in a general summary, which is dealing with background information, the regulatory background, as well as the audit strategy. And then the executive summary. So really the purpose and the outcome of the audit. And for sure also the organization of the corrective actions and the follow-up, which is then covered by the observations as well as the recommendations. So, and the observations should be clustered where applicable and will be graded in critical, major, or minor. And the usual process dealing then afterwards with a part of the report is the follow-up, where if not otherwise agreed, the client receives the draft audit report from the auditor, and in parallel the auditee will receive just the list of observations to be able to create a draft CAPA plan to respond on these observations. So the auditee should provide their comments to the auditor within the agreed timeline, which is usually 3 weeks, including information about resolved and unresolved issues, and by when the resolution of the outstanding issues is planned. According to ISO 9000, corrective action and preventive action, so-called CAPR, is an element of quality management system, and corrective action is taken to prevent recurrences, whereas preventive action is taken to prevent occurrence, which means corrective action should eliminate the cause of the detected non-conformity or other undesirable solution, and the preventive action is the action to eliminate the cause of a potential non-conformity or other undesirable potential situation. So we now spoke so far about the mindset with respect to audits. We pointed out that remote audits are not that different with respect to the preparation to on-site audits. We spoke about the preparation, the contact itself, as well as also a little bit about the report and the follow-up, meaning dealing with the list of observations as well as the CAPR. So This is very theoretical, what I shared so far with you. And now we should really go into the deeps to understand, okay, what can we expect from an audit? And the aim of an audit is to clarify the following questions, meaning if we are dealing with a system audit, it has to be clarified, does the system exists? Meaning, is there a QA system making sure that we are able to work according to processes? The second question, which has to be solved or answered, is the system fit for its purpose? And speaking about system or project audits, it has also to be clarified, do the process owner work according to the system? So these three questions should be answered during an audit. So the question which maybe now could come up is, which is the right time point for such an audit? And here we have to distinguish between an independent audit, which is conducted for the qualification or requalification of, for example, a CRO or a vendor, and this could be done at any time. And for sure also in regulatory intervals to make sure that the quality of the vendor is still the same. Looking for a particular trial, it makes sense to have a systematic audit approach during the course of the trial, or also prior to the database lock. From time to time, also it makes sense to have an audit after the database lock. So the question is now, what is the auditor looking for? Usually, an auditor is focusing on the standard operating procedures. He is interested in training of the staff, the qualification, for sure also the study protocol, inclusive the amendments will be checked. The auditor will also check the informed consent process, clarifying if all contracts with involved parties are in place. He will request to understand the data collection tools while checking the database specification, testing or release. He will focus also on the processing of data, for example, import of external data, as well as making sure that the data security is performed in a way that he is focusing on the user management, asking or requesting information with respect to the password policy, checking if there is any firewall in place, also clarifying the access to the server, and for sure the backup of electronic system. So as the collection and processing of data have a main impact on the outcome of a clinical trial, I'm going now to focus more on the questions which could be expected from an auditor in relation to the database. So when these questions could be, for example, is the database validated? Is the validation sufficiently documented? So meaning, is every document in place that you really understand the processing of the data? Are edit checks programmed and also validated? What about transfers from external databases? This is usually a point which is not that well documented. So And also, is the database authorized for the production? These are just a short overview of questions which may come up during such an audit. And as you can imagine, these are also the most common issues in relation to a database. In this case, usually, or what you very often find in relation to an audit is that database corrections were not documented after the testing. The data validation plan, for example, is not written prior to database release. We have incompleteness in the records of CIA fields in the database. The self-evident corrections are not documented, and the access to the eServer servers is not clear, so it could not really point it out who has access to the system and how long. And also, as already mentioned, upload and processing of the data, the electoral data import failed. This could be that the imported data, for example, are allocated to the wrong trial subject, or the data import is not complete. These are just some examples which may occur with respect to the processing of the data during a trial, and this is for sure also therefore on the focus of the auditor. So having this in mind, let's come to our initial slide. Thoughts or opinions about audits, especially from the auditor's point of view, have a huge impact on the communication. The QA auditors are often perceived as being overcritical, and criticism, even if it's communicated in a really constructive way, is for a lot of people difficult to accept. And therefore, you can imagine that communication carries really a risk of conflicts. And reason for these conflicts could be the incorrect understanding of the meaning of an audit. Which is also a reason for the conflict is the lack of clarity on the audit. For sure, also, when we are speaking about communication, the personalities of the auditor and the auditee has a huge impact on or could have a huge impact on conflicts. The lack of reflection and control, a lack of audit strategy, and for sure the insufficient preparation of the audit team could be a reason here for conflicts. To avoid these conflicts, we should consider some points. And these points should be that you select a mature personality, so a person with a strong ego, which is not taking everything personal, so really is able to accept these feedback from the auditor. Next to this, it's very important that you demonstrate reliable knowledge. And for sure, as I mentioned, continuous training of your staff and establishing of audit strategies. These tools will minimize the conflicts during such an audit. And to make it more transparent and more clearer, I would further more like to give you a few do's and don'ts with respect to the communication. So be always cooperative, respectful, and professional. Take the time to confirm answers. with the appropriate sources if necessary. Answer only questions that you are asked. Ask for clarification if you do not understand what is being asked. It's acceptable to respond that you don't know the answer, and also request additional time for the response. Don'ts: do not guess, lie, deny the obvious, or make misleading statements. Do not respond to questions that are outside of your area of expertise, of authority. Do not initiate responses like "I believe" or "I think." Do not discuss other studies, projects. Do not argue with budget or tough timelines. And do not blame anybody else, colleagues, line managers, investigators, for anything. So, as you can imagine, what we shared so far is that we have several areas which have a huge impact to be really efficiently prepared for a remote audit. And to sum it up, very important is the preparation phase with respect to such an audit. Next to it, the cooperation with all the involved parties and the communication. These three topics have the main impact and are the main factors influencing smooth conduct of an audit, especially when we are speaking about remote audits.
Thanks for watching, and do not forget to subscribe. Take care.